I am so sorry because this is a classic and I was just remember.
I forgot as well.
But like the majority of these resources will be shared anyway. So sorry, Helen said that she will introduce herself briefly when she is there a bit at the end.
Fantastic, thank you.
Great.
So unless you have any questions, we'll move on to the next activity. This is a reversed scenario, that's what I called it. Basically, I will read to you a scenario, and you need to make a few notes or write the key points to answer some of the questions below, which we will discuss as a group at the end. So I know you all work in the frontline teams at the Red Cross in one way or another, but with this activity, we would like, first of all, you to think about the emotional and psychological effects of domestic abuse, about safety and assessing risk and possible avenues of support, all the things that we do as in our professional day-to-day, but from the point of view of the survivor. We thought of this as an activity, as in a face-to-face training where you'd have an opportunity to role play various parts, and including one as a client. So I hope this is challenging and useful. As I said, I put some slides on the questions on the slide to prompt conversation at the end. Please note that each scenario depicts a more severe form of abuse. So if you need to take a break, I will do so, and I will read for about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and you can come back later. So I'll start. Part 1. Me and my spouse have been together for 7 years. We have 2 children together. We have always been happy in the relationship. As a couple, we've had disagreements over finances, disciplining the children, and spending time together when the family has free time. Some time ago, my husband lost his job, and he has become more sensitive and easily provoked, particularly when talking about family finances or finding a job. At a Christmas gathering, I mentioned to a friend who owns a company that my husband was looking for a job. He became furious and reprimanded me in front of everyone for what he says is speaking out of place. Later in the week, he apologized for lashing out and admitted he is feeling the pressure of needing to find a new job. Part 2. It is now July, and it's a very hot day. Since Christmas, my husband only found odd jobs here and there. On my day off, I decide to bring the kids to the park to enjoy some ice cream. When I return home, my husband says he's upset that I spend all the money on ice cream. He yells at me and accuses me of being irresponsible with the family finances. He grabs and empties my purse on the floor. He then demands that I report every pound spent from now on. I tell him that I will not do that it was just some ice cream. So he smacks me, grabs me by the hair, takes my wallet, and threatens me not to give it back until I learned my lesson. I yell back not to ever hit me again when I see that the children are there and they've seen the whole incident. Later, they ask if it's their fault that I got in trouble with Papi. Part 3. Things seem to be getting better. Communication was strained, and I've been careful to avoid open confrontation. He has found a night job, and I noticed that he's been keeping busy around the home, doing repairs, helping with groceries. He has even become more involved with the children's day-to-day care by picking them up and dropping them off at school, making their lunch and managing their after-school routine. I was very grateful for this shift in behavior that this new time has created. One night I find my husband yelling at my eldest child and seemed about to beat him. I attempt to intervene and mediate the situation as my son is scared. Instead, he turns on me for undermining his authority in front of the children and beats me up in front of them. I run to put the kids to bed. I am afraid he will come and beat us all. I immediately recognize my arms and my back are sore. The next day, he gets the kids ready and takes them to school with my wallet. He comes back with breakfast and he promises he will never hurt me again and asks if he can run me a hot bath to relax and make all the pain go away. Part 4. It has now been 2 years since the first time he has become violent with me. There have been a number of other physical fights. After every fight, he apologizes and has even been romantic by taking us to a day trip to the beach. With every apology, he assures me how important his family is and how much he loves us and will do anything for his children. One incident was so bad that the oldest child reported it to his teacher. A social worker came round to check for the safety of the children. They informed me that if there are any signs of abuse or risk to danger to the safety of the children, they're obligated by law to take and protect them until further notice. So now we've got about 10 minutes to discuss. Does anybody would like to start us off with any reflections or answers to the questions you might have noted?
Yeah, I can start. Is anyone else going? I can't see everyone, sorry. Okay. I'll just talk about the children maybe, because there's obviously a lot going on. But the thing you mentioned most recently about the social worker being involved, she may be feeling obviously worried, afraid of their safety from the father, but also worried about having the children taken out of her care. So she might have balancing those two things. Basically, she wants them to be safe, but then she also doesn't want them to be taken away from her because of what the social services might do.
Yeah. Sorry, Sherry, I think you're sounding a bit metallic. Do you have earphones maybe for later?
I could just turn off my video. I think the internet here is not great.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
I don't know if that makes it better. Sorry. I can try and type as well if it's really bad.
Yeah, Sherry, you've got a what's it called, like an echo constantly, but we could make out what you're saying still.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about how she feels about her husband and like their family, and there's quite a lot of obviously there's the physical violence that you've described, but there's a lot of kind of the like emotional and coercive control as well, whereby, you know, the husband doesn't like has physically assaulted or abused her, and then he's saying that he really loves her and loves the children, loves the family, and that's quite I imagine can make quite very like mixed feelings towards her husband in her mind, because you know, her family is obviously really important to her, and she wants to believe him when he says that he loves her and loves the children and wants to make it work, but then there's this like repetition of the behavior over and over again. Yeah, it's kind of something that strikes me, and I think, yeah, as human beings, we want to like be resilient and like suck things up sometimes and just see if we can cope and carry on. And that's where like there becomes quite a big risk in my mind, because you kind of think, oh, okay, I've got through that episode. Now they're saying they're sorry and that things might change. I'm going to try and make it work. And that's where it can be really, she's in a really difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely. So we've said that she feels worried, that she might feel guilt, mixed feelings, and yeah, you're mentioning about the risks, and maybe she's not aware too much of the of what is domestic abuse and to define it. It doesn't look like she mentioned it to anyone else. So yeah, so this scenario is based on like the cycle and pattern of violence that usually women describe. So
I think also as it develops over time, she's in the storyline. Essentially, it seems that she was also changing her behavior in order to avoid the triggers. And you know, it's actually whether she's aware, because at the beginning she seemed to be able to actually stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that. But as the story progresses, then she does seem to be changing her behavior in order to prevent any sort of outburst.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the domestic abuse cycle, in a way, to try to sort of change the behavior, like you're walking on eggshells in a way, like not knowing what will trigger, and try to avoid the conversation that doesn't, avoid non-essential conversations, it seems.
Also, I was just thinking that probably thinking of on side of the husband, probably because the wife doesn't think of what's going on with her husband is conflicts of behavior. Probably if she open up, probably husband will get support to understand his behavior.
Sorry, and what about the mental issues of the husband? He might be suffering of any mental problem.
Yeah, so we know that he's going through a hard time. We know that the scenario starts from, we've had a happy relationship for 7 years, and then this starts to happen. So yes, so I guess she tries to be supportive and tries to, as you mentioned, take it in.
Here are some examples, and I will go.
I think there's big fear of losing the children as well. No, social services, saying that the children could be taken away from her.
Yeah.
So obviously the fear of losing children, and then fear perhaps of reprimand from the husband if the children leave.
Yes, and this is the end of the story for us, so we don't know what happens next. We don't know if this is the moment in which she realizes and that she needs help, because maybe that's the moment in which she seeks external help, professional help for advice, or not. And maybe she feels the guilt, so we don't know what's happening next. But good point. This is the first external intervention, though, into the whole story.
I think as well.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think she's trying to manage the situation. Because according to the story, they said the scenario. They said they have a happy marriage for the past 7 years. So I think at the early stage, she's thinking maybe the husband have that attitude because of he lost his job, but after he got the another job, the abuse is still progressing and is going from better to worse. So I think she was trying to manage the situation, and she was thinking like the abuse is going to be better now that the man got the job. But so I don't think the man. I think the man have enjoyed the masculine side of him because of the woman have already accept, and maybe she's feeling like maybe she's the one that is wrong. She's accepting like maybe it's my fault. That's why some things are not going very well, and it's reducing her self-confidence. And I think because she's having low self-confidence and so low self-esteem for after a while, so she's becoming a little bit more vulnerable than before. So the man used the opportunity to make the situation getting worse with time.
Yeah, definitely. In a way, she in the manual there is quite a lot of details on types of domestic abuse and indicators. So even from the first scenario where he lashes out at her with a group of friends at Christmas gathering. This is a form of humiliation. Humiliation can also be a form of isolation, and that is a form of domestic abuse. It doesn't look like she shared this with anybody, or that we don't know if she has, we know that she works as well, but we don't know if, what her social life is. So if she's able to share any of this with her family or some friends.
It also looks like there's signs of like financial abuse, and when he's wanting her to record how she's spending the money,
Definitely.
or he takes her wallet away, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's another form of abuse. So so this activity wanted to think about some of the types and indicators of domestic abuse. You mentioned violent masculinities. There is definitely separate work that focuses on and specialist organizations that work on these issues. We will send out a handout after the session, but now I wanted to move on to the top things to think about as a caseworker and to take away from this activity. Feel free to jump in if you want to add anything, but we used this reverse scenario to remind of the need of understanding, sensitivity, and to remind that, first of all, there are emotional barriers to living in an abusive situation, as well as practical barriers, and that's specifically even more so when working with women that come to our services. Remember that it's possible also that, or likely, that a survivor will return several times after leaving a situation, or when they become aware of the situation. And this understanding is key to support clients, and remember also the impact on your feelings and your expectations as a professional. So I would refer you to the first couple of chapters in the manual, in particular the 6 stages of abuse and the power wheel. So just a few words on the 6 stages is that studies have found that when working with survivors, there's a pattern in the abuse that it's repeatedly continuously. So, for example, there's an act and then apologies and promises of change. Women usually describe the cycle and pattern of violence with like what is called a tension building phase. So you try not to provoke and sort of manage the situation, think you can manage it. Then typically a physical assault or another form of domestic abuse, followed by the honeymoon phase, it's called. So like acts of kindness, I'll take you to the beach, I'll make you breakfast, and apologies. And it's just, this helps to explain why victims stay in the relationships, and also that, she describes this as a good dad. He took care of the house and the children, but then has, there is the moment of, and the cycle of violence returns. You can have a look at the power wheel. This is helpful for a visual aid when you want to recognize types of abuse. And there is one reproduced in the handout. I will send it to you after the session. However, I would say that in the case of RS-RFL clients, you should also consider intersectionality. So a power wheel alone doesn't explain immigration status as a source of power and control. So intersectionality just means, for example, that we're dealing with a woman. We recognize that she is might be an older person or have a disability, or insecure immigration status. So looking at different levels